masyado. So, yun. Good morning mga agila. At welcome back sa Agilang Manlalakbay Channel. At yung pag-uusapan natin ngayon mga agila is yung mga karapatan natin na habang nandito tayo sa mundo is yung karapatan natin is makita natin at mapaglaban natin. At yan yung topic ngayon natin dito mga agila na the flower of life is open. At yung mga piling individual is nakikipag laban sa ating mga karapatan to discover kung ano yung ma-integrate natin sa pangkalahatan, kung ano yung wisdom na na magawa natin, na ma-apply natin sa mga sarili natin. At yung ano natin dito mga agila, yung mga itatampok natin is si Terrence Howard, Julian Assange, at Robert Breedlove. At yun yung ano mga agila na each one of them fight and educate millions of people about that about freedom na makatulong sa atin. At maraming mga skeptic mga agila, for example, sa mga corporations. Kasi ang nangyayari, yung mindset natin as tao is we are under the control of corporate profits na downgrade ng consciousness ng pangkalahatan. Kasi ang nangyayari mga agila na kung makikita natin sa paligid ngayon na yung mga information na tawag nito na dapat na like na matutunan natin is hindi pinapalabas. At yung technique nila, dahil control nila ang media, ang news agency, yung information na natatanggap natin is kung sa ano pa edited na. At dito mga agila sa topic natin ngayon is ito yung integration ng civilization natin as being na we are not slaves sa systems ng tawag nito ng secret society. O yung pinaka ano talaga mga agila is yung private contractor na they bet na yung malalaking pera na to create things na para lang sa benepisyo nila. But hindi natin nare-realize mga agila na the projection of our civilizations in the future is hindi natin hindi natin nakikita na we are moving backwards through the system. At yan yung mga agila na kasi alam nila mga agila kung paano nila tayo kontrolin through uh, new, news, music, ah tawag nito, yung yung pagtakot nila. At yan yung mga agila na ah yun nga mga agila, ah nandito tayo mga agila nakatira sa holographic ah matrix na lahat tayo is ah tayo yung naga-create ng reality natin. At yung mga agila, yung resonance, yung vibration, yung music is mayroong napakalaking epekto sa emotions natin. At yung emotions natin mga agila through our DNA is naaapektuhan yung pag-develop ng awareness natin o consciousness natin. Alam natin yan sa mga agila na yung nakikita natin na mga gera, mga barilan, at yan yung mga agila na technique nila na malito tayo, ma-distract tayo sa tawag nito, sa tricks nila. At yan yung mga agila na yung yung tawag nito, pag naga-against ka sa tawag nito, o pinoprotektahan mo yung rights mo o makita mo yung mag-report ka ng yung ah, mga nangyayari is ang nangyayari mga agila is through social media naging tawag nito kung sa ano pa dahil sa na-program sa atin sa traditional na belief system natin. Yung nakalimutan natin mga agila, yung karapatan natin. At yan yung dahilan mga agila na dahil diyan nagkakaroon tayo ng ah tawag nito, yung negative emotions kasi yan yung pinipid nila sa atin. At once na hindi natin yan siya makita mga agila, yung paano natin ma-enjoy o ma tawag nito, ma-enjoy yung journey natin dito if ah, matakot tayo sa anong mangyari sa atin. At yun yung mga agila na ah, base kay Terence Howard na na na-discovery, na-open niya, thank you, na-open niya yung pinaka-ancient symbol na alam ng humanity. At yan yung mga agila, yung flower of life na tawag nito, na magbabago ng system if ready tayo. Ang tanong mga Agila, paano natin magamit yung unity ng lahat o yung unity ng mga tao na to fight for our right na to discuss sa tawag nito sa mga bagong ideas na tawag nito na ang yung maka-benefits is tayo din. At yan yung mga Agila na ipakikita ko sa inyo para ano ah titingnan natin kung
So
And then,
sorry, it's a
so
little bit of delay.
I gotta go. I want to get back to just me again.
Yeah.
So everything comes down to two separate sides. There's the magnetic side,
Okay.
where four bubbles meet, which is the first thing that I discovered, which is an all shape, because I wanted to figure out how many numbers. Like they said, 3 was the magic number.
Mm-hmm.
So what really was it? The Holy Trinity. A lot of things, good things comes in threes. We hear all these different stories about threes, but there was nothing sustainable about 3. It turned out in order to see height, width, and depth as far as perception, you need 4 dimensions. You need your height, your width, and your depth, but you also need your fourth perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That has to be equal and opposite to all the other sides to it. And that pressure condition looks just like hydrogen.
Can you turn
Which-
it a little? Okay. Okay.
Right? Now this is expanding. This has, if you were to drop this in any kind of fluid, these fins on it would make it fall slower. Even though it has a lot of positive charge in these collective areas. But now imagine it this way, without the fins, and which one do you think will move?
so dito mga Agila pinost ko muna at titingnan muna natin yung ano yung connection ng flower of life na magamit ng humanity ng para sa lahat at ano yung sa haba ng panahon mga Agila yung ano ni Terrence Howard is parang wala pa ring improvement kasi hindi pa tayo handa na tawag nito kung sa ano pa sa idea na to kasi yun nga the way tayo mag-isip is only for profits, only for at yan yung ah ano natin mga Agila na i ano natin ipaglaban natin yung karapatan natin, yung rights natin na makilala kung sino tayo at kung ano yung potensyal natin as a human being. At dito sa pag-open niya sa mga Agila, sa Flower of Life, hindi na natin kailangan magbayad ng kuryente at i-explain natin. At yung message ng mga agila is na-research ko yan din dyan siya. Marami na tayong gising at marami pa ring tulog at yung kailangan natin na free source of energy is nandito na at ito yun mga agila, yung flower of life at titingnan natin ulit para ah, ma-explain natin, makita natin yung
Okay. Because I know a lot of the questions that people have, like, okay, Terrence has all of these ideas, but what are you doing with them? The one that you mentioned so far was Saturn. So I was just.
Yeah, well, we're about let's show you something. Yeah, go straight to the video. Just go straight to the video. This is Haiti. This is giving you a. Oh no, let's walk through it. Let's walk through it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
There is a delay here. There is a delay. So this is Haiti.
Okay.
Can you imagine the amount of trash that's left from? This is all as a result of what took place at that terrible earthquake. They have not recovered. This is Haiti today. Let's go to the next picture. Now, what we envision is being able to take. Well, oh, you went so quick.
Sorry. I did. I'm sorry. I apologize.
It is a long delay. So here we have the potential peace that Haiti could have, but to the right to my right is a book that describes a tall history of sugar, a tale of history. Go to the next page.
Yep.
Let's see how long it takes to hear that. So this is the desperation that the people are living in. So now these are the hurricanes that chase this island. Now, as a result of the Haitians being one of the very first islands to turn on their masters, and so they immediately was left out of any economic growth deliberately. The Dominican Republic, which sits, the green area, the Haitians have deforested all of their land. They have to in order to build a house, in order to find food. They've deforested most of their land, so they have no natural resources left that they can grab from. But this is what we hope to do now, since all of that area is free for the sun. Now this was what could be. Let's go back, DJ. Yeah, that picture there. You got it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, this is what's taking place in the Dominican, and this is what Haiti looks like. So the economic potential for Haiti. Now let's go to the next one, DJ. So with utilizing the technology that we've uncovered, instead of having a solar panel that works as a solar panel, it's just flattened. Instead of having something working on wind, instead of having something working on piezoelectric or vibratory harmonics, this is what we will build, which will power more than 3 homes.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Just let it play. That's a light unit. But all of the focused light, the energy is all being pushed to a center area that's going to also be affected by the multiple vortices that this thing, as I talked about earlier. And each change in pressure creates another kick in energy. And imagine this. Now let's go to the field.
And that's pulling. I'm sorry, it's pulling the energy from the sun. From the sunlight.
It's pulling solar. It's doing wind. It's doing piezoelectric. Piezoelectric is when you take like a quartz crystal. You wonder why the pyramids were made of a quartz-like material, granite. It's because quartz, when you push on it, when you put pressure on quartz, it returns that force back in an electrical charge. So you use piezoelectric just by having anything that changes the pressure on a quartz. You will get another electrical charge off of it. And then you also are able to get vibratory charges from its particular positioning. So play the video of having fields of the light units. This is on the building, but within a few years, Haiti would probably provide most of the electricity that is used in the Dominican Republic. And imagine the trade between them, technicians learning how to take these things to build these there. And these are also will ultimately power something that could actually change the world itself.
Yeah.
But these are little steps. These are little steps.
That's a big step. I wouldn't call that little. That's not little.
Well, we can put that in. We'll put that in individual backyards, on rooftops, and everyone can have their energy for free.
Well, Terrence, I know why they're laughing at you. They don't want this done.
Of course not. Of course not. But continue. I think we have more with it. No, we don't. We can't do this one yet. This one is
okay.
Ultimately, we can. The air can become purified. It can take the energy from. We can. This is an energy amplifier in its own right, and it's all based upon, these simple standing waves.
Mm-hmm.
Just standing waves.
Wow.
And how the universe behaves, how it loves the standing wave and how it expresses itself. And no matter what, it's going to keep coming down to this one little piece right here. Now, can we take her to, since this is the all shape, and if I was to take 8 of these and put them together, they would look like this. And then I would stack them, and they would look like this. I don't know if you can see that. Can you take her to that, DJ? When the light column. Now, this is something that I built years ago.
Wow, Terrence, this is amazing.
This is fun. Thank you for taking the time. Yeah, the light column.
Thank you. I'm just blown away.
Wow.
I get it here.
Yeah, is it there?
Yeah.
So this is what's in my house. What I just showed you. Yeah. What I just showed you, this is a real thing. This is what happens when when eight all shapes come together and they stack upon each other. They begin predicting the entire wave field. Now, all of that potential, the purpose of that is all of that potential can be tapped now.
Okay.
Every place where you see a light going off, that's a vortex. There's a small tornado happening there. So you can tap onto that energy for free. That's what this is. This predicts all distribution of matter. So now let's take her to the to the piece that DJ's work, DJ and Chris's work. Yeah, let's go to the actual. The one that I wanted coming out of the ground. You know which one I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right there. But that also not. Yeah, there it is. So that is this right here.
Okay.
This is it in.
Well, the model.
And then this is it if we put it in virtual, and it's spinning.
CGI?
That right there is CGI. What I showed you before was something built.
Yeah. It's interactive.
But this is interactive. This gives you. Can you do it from the top perspective?
Yeah.
Oh.
So now you see why it's called the fruit from the flower, because that's all you see is the flower. And that's, so if those were used as lenses, can you imagine how much they would heat up and take one solar lens? It's ridiculous. It's just not even fair anymore.
Wow.
So this right here, now let's take her and show her the combination of that with predicting the DNA.
Okay.
Predicting the DNA.
The DNA of our bodies, the way our bodies are put together. There we go. It's made up, before you start it, it's made up of five tones.
Okay.
5 tones. Phosphorus, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, and hydrogen. Now, each one of these things are aligned next to another one as a way of passing on a tone, like keys on the piano. And when you watch them build themselves, you can let it play now. They naturally build themselves around this structure you were just looking at.
Okay.
This is the hydrogen, the nitrogen, the carbon, the phosphorus, and the oxygen bonding and communicating across our DNA, following these same shapes, which happens to just fit inside of the rift, that makes up our entire galaxy, the wall of our galaxy, that great rift. Everything is some smaller creature of some much larger being. Our entire galaxy is just the DNA, just one DNA strand of a much larger being. So for us to even be having this conversation within the lifespan of something like that is remarkable. But to talk about truth, to participate in a new paradigm, thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
But this is real. Now, this we did with animation in building Saturn. There was no animation there. That was just what occurred.
That's what I was going to ask. Did you do that intentionally, or?
No. Chris, tell her how it happened. I called you and was like, throw some of these things into different positions and see what they create. I thought he would come back to me a month from then, and show me something simple. I had no idea 3 hours later he was going to have that video.
And it looked like Saturn.
I just was like, wait a minute. That's why I had to talk to Mira. I was like, Mira, you need to hear this. You got to hear what they're.
Yeah, it was quite profound. Like I was simply following the geometry the way Terrence was teaching me, the same way he was walking you through it. Right? He'd walked me through it for a couple of months, banging it into my head, so I just ended up lining up the vortexes, right? The tornadoes following what Terrence refers to as the linchpin configuration, which is just 4 pointed towards a common center point, and then doubled it, and then I rotated it 120 degrees and follow up. Just let the geometry lead the way, right?
Yeah.
And then I realized that I put in like some particle systems and stuff, and then I just hit play. Essentially, I just angled them following the right angles of Terrence's linchpin, and then I hit play, and then it just morphed right in front of my eyes. I was like, I don't believe what I'm seeing. Right? Even the hexagon on the top of Saturn was. Yeah,
that's the stuff that blew my mind. Literally, this had all occurred 3 days before the Emmys. So
that's why you were excited.
So freaking excited. I was like, and then he did it with just 2 linchpins and the Milky Way galaxy, and I was like, okay, all right, well this is now becoming really fun. So we should show them a linchpin now.
Yeah, and can you explain to me
Yes.
what it is? Because when I watched the video, I mean, me and my husband, like, we were fascinated, but like confused at the same time.
Right.
And I
Let's
know
get back to
linchpin
this.
is a term, that's your term. That's your actual term that you came up with, linchpin.
Yeah, I call it a linchpin because it's the Constitution that holds everything together. But you see this all shape I have right here.
Yes.
Well, it is the backbone of the linchpin. Go to the single linchpin one that we have on the book. It'll be easier if you go to that, the one that's in the book. You just pass the all shape.
And the book being interactive is certainly helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the fun part. All of this stuff. We're about to take you through an interactive walkthrough here. So here's the linchpins there, but go up to where we're this is the fun part.
Yeah. Giordano Bruno, by the way.
Bruno's right there. That's who we were making reference to earlier. But I'm sure you'll be able to clip this all together. Back to the flower of life. There we go.
Yeah.
There you see. There's the linchpin right there to my left.
Okay.
Now,
got it.
What you're looking at is basically the bone structure. That's the very skeletal structure of that overall of the all shape. It's the same structure, but this is the scaffolding of it. So now we see how the all shapes, behave in nature. And I'm using the wrong term. The all shapes they really express every aspect of the universe as a whole when you're describing magnetic fields, and where the unshapes, I call them, the electric parts describe the electric field. And these two together end up telling the entire story. So, but the center of each one of these all shapes, like it's 8 that made up this one, is the linchpin. So show her the linchpin now while I'm holding this one this way. And you can see the 3 points on it, but then just go to the linchpin in motion right there.
Which one? Can you put the cursor on which one you mean?
Yeah, this one right here. That's the linchpin right there.
Because I have it pulled up here on my tablet too.
Yeah, pull it up. Now you'll see here 4 of the linchpins coming together. Isn't that a daisy? Isn't that a crystal? And what's interesting is 4 of these coming together will bond with another set of 4s. It will bond and make a much larger structure, and they'll keep making a larger structure, but they'll still have that. So now let's show what happens when 5 of them bond. This is what I'm saying is a common factor of all things in the universe. This is 5 linchpins coming together, which is basically all shapes. There will be, and now one of the things they've always said is that a crystal can't be predicted how a crystal shall grow. But this seems to pretty much tell the tale of crystalline formation. And everything that we see and experience is a crystalline formation.
But is it random?
There's no randomness to it because everything is going to keep coming back to this all shape. That's still the same shape as, come back to this now, DJ.
Yep.
If you can see me, that's still this same all shape.
That same shape. Okay.
That's the recursive thing that the universe keeps coming back to. And is this, they call it, what's that favorite term? The Y delta, delta Y. And why it's so important. But those are the things that make it all predictable. And as a result of it, there's so much more technology that we can now access that wasn't available before when we thought the world was flat.
But I mean, we've been away from that idea for a while, but correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying is although most people have agreed that the earth is not flat, the ideas that you're saying right now haven't been acknowledged, at least not out in the open.
I mean, well, put it this way. Imagine a couple of sailors, riding in one of the in a helicopter and saying, I hear the world is round. Mm-hmm. Or I hear the world. No, that's not the right illustration. I'm trying to picture something in a modern state. You're still using it's almost as if somebody from our day today was still sitting and using a rotary phone. If you remember the rotary phones from the 50s. If somebody today was trying to run their entire business, the entire world, on rotary phones, when this technology is available right here for us to do this, or they were doing telegraphs still, when we have this technology available, what the door that this new understanding opens, and it absolutely frees humanity from this two-dimensional grasp that's held us for the last 6,000 years, if we want it.
That was actually going to be my next question. You talked about two-dimensional mathematics in a three-dimensional world.
Yes.
Can you explain that a little bit? I think I got lost on that as well.
What we just talked about before, when in our math, you remember X and you remember Y, right? Sometimes you remember Z. Sometimes you remember Z. But based on the two-dimensional perspective that they built the world, or the math that describes the world, moves forever directly in front of you and forever behind, and forever to the right and to the left. Mm-hmm. It's a flat plane. It has no height. It has no width. It's a flat plane. Now show me one place in nature where only two dimensions exist. Again, in order for us to see anything, it has to have at least three recognizable dimensions. It has to have height, width, and depth.
Okay.
And our own perspective, which brings it to four. So how in the world can two-dimensional perspectives tell of multi-dimensional reactions and realities? It's like trying to draw me with stick figures. Yeah, you can get some depiction of me, but is it going to be the best understanding of drawing my face with stick figures? And now we have so many more tools in which to understand and describe nature and grow as a people, as a part of this universe. I think we're being shared. This knowledge is being shared because maybe this is a right time in which people are open to something new.
Yeah.
Something transformational.
So let me ask you this. I mean, we've already acknowledged that, some people are laughing or, especially after hearing what you're going to do at Haiti, there's a lot of...
That's what we hope to do.
That's what you hope to do. But just those ideas alone, I can imagine, corporate, businesses and power companies, they're not going to want that.
Now, of course they don't want it, but otherwise the earth is going to wipe us out. if we don't make a change.
Yeah.
If we don't do something quickly, I would rather have to take on the full wrath of the corporations and their anger. That's why we didn't charge anything for the book, because the truth is free. And this is more of a shout out. Hey, look out, something's coming. But hey, there's also some help that's coming along the way.
Yeah.
I'm not a Bible thumper, but I've learned some valuable lessons from that book. The idea that the children of Adam stood there for 1,637 years, according to the scriptural chronology, from the time of Adam's creation until the flood came, and that flood changing the world, the basis of the world. But it's thought that the children of Adam used to run and hide and look to see past those two angels that with the flaming sword spinning, and trying to get glimpses of the tree of life, just glimpses at its fruit. And so many of the great men, the men that we hold in great honor today, like Da Vinci and Newton, who had to practice this art of opening the flower of life in the privacy of his home late at night, for fear that if it ever got out, this was alchemy. This was heresy, high heresy. And now you guys get to see it. Everybody in the world gets to see that which was held sacred and quiet for so long. There's a reason behind it, especially happening at a time now where people are questioning everything.
Oh yeah.
I've questioned for the last 10 years, why has it been that for 6,000 years we've worshipped only this male deity, as if a man can produce a child and can produce a son by himself without an equal and opposite female. So what happened to the feminine deity? What the equal and opposite, since everything in the universe and my studies, what I've come to realize is everything has an equal and opposite mate. Even on our periodic table, if you look at carbon being that perfect balance between helium or neon, it has 4 steps it goes through, 3 steps it goes through before it gets to that perfect balance. It has a +1 on the helium side, and that's immediately balanced by a -1 on the neon side. And so that -1 is fluorine, and the +1 is lithium. And lithium and fluorine balance each other out. The +2, the next step up, is beryllium. Well, its equal and opposite mate is a -2, which is oxygen. If you are in a room and you need to breathe and some beryllium comes in the room, grab as much air as you can, because the beryllium is not going to let it go. You will suffocate in the room with beryllium because it wants the oxygen. That's its natural mate. That's its baby. It's taking it. The same way the next step up, a +3, is boron, and its equal and opposite mate is a -3, which is nitrogen. Nitrogen and boron, we use boric acid to kill roaches. So we know that we stay away, but that's the natural balance between nitrogen, and it ends up being perfectly balanced, those two forces squeezing on each other at carbon. And that's why carbon is the same exact color as hydrogen, because hydrogen is just carbon under a higher pressure condition. Then the next pressure condition, the hydrogen becomes carbon, and then it becomes silicon, the same color yellow. And it all has +1, +2, and +3s. What I'm saying, everything like as above, so below. So if everything within this physical universe has an equal and opposite mate, then on a spiritual place, it would have an equal and opposite mate. So now I understand the possibility of why there's so much feminine anger taking place now. Look at that deity that's been vilified for 6,000 years. The first plane was placed on the woman. So I think this is a time in which a lot of understanding is going to be revealed. And that's the frightening part. Because no, this doesn't just question the standards that we've learned our math and science. Mm-hmm. It's over for them. This is their foundation. Their foundation was the flower of life, flat.
Okay.
They never thought someone would turn it into three-dimensional and prove them wrong. So that's a wrap on them, regardless. That's why I've said I'm down to debate with anybody. They'll have equations, and I'll be like, no, let me show you what it looks like.
Yeah, I took a look at your Oxford University interview or presentation that you did, and I noticed there was some pushback, during that a little bit, but it seems that you're used to it though.
It's like I said in the beginning, it's not a fair fight. I feel sorry for them.
Well, I mean, you're so confident with the math.
No, it's just I'm confident in following the geometry. It's like the rest of them are walking, and they have to be on the same mountain because we're having this conversation. Mm-hmm. But maybe their eyes are closed. Maybe they're not allowing themselves to see the connections, or they don't want to see the connections because there's a lot of other things attached to those connections, and to question all of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned spirituality. You can answer this or not, but it does make me wonder, what are your spiritual beliefs or religion? Do you subscribe to any religion? And you're talking about a lot of science. And I know when I did my video, everybody typed Scientology. He's into Scientology. And I just want to know, what are your thoughts on that?
What I've come to discover, everything inside the universe is made from the first thing in the universe.
Okay.
From the beginning. We normally call the beginning, some call the beginning the creators. Mm-hmm. We are all collectively, actively participating in this act of creation. I believe that collectively we all make the true God, the true being. All things, not just me, but even the plastic, the polyethylene that this has turned into, it's still vibrating at the key of E. And that means it's breathing in and it's breathing out. Positively charging, breathing in, negatively discharging, breathing out. Spinning northeast, breathing in, spinning southwest centrifugally, breathing out. It's still alive, and that means everything is alive. There is no dead. Everything is participating in this thing called creation. We are all sacred. And once we recognize that all things are sacred, then maybe we will vibrate at a slightly higher rate, because we'll see the peace of God in ourselves, and everyone else will see it and act accordingly.
Because I did notice in your book, in the you mentioned the creator, and we're all one in a sense, and I don't want to misquote. I wish I had it up. You said once you know one thing about, what did you say?
One thing. If you know one thing about one thing, then you know one thing about all things.
Yeah.
Find the common factors and either multiply or divide.
And that's your quote?
Yeah.
That was very profound. I was like, okay, I know everything, basically. That's what I took from it.
You do. If you know,
I know everything. Let me tell my husband real quick, baby, I know everything. Does your wife get away with that?
Yeah, and that's another thing. There's another thing that happens that a lot of us don't realize with women. At the point of 3 months of gestation, when a woman's body recognizes that this is a little girl, it floods it with estrogen. Now, that womb being flooded with estrogen, it causes the connections between the right and left hemisphere of that little girl's mind to expand.
Mm-hmm.
A child, a little girl, a woman at all times has more connective use of her entire brain than a man at any given time in his life, because that's what estrogen does. It allows you to see so many different perspectives, and therefore a woman will learn how to, little girl learn how to talk faster, learn how to walk, learn how to communicate. But then it also makes you so aware of all the consequences that could happen. And so now you need a gang of counselors to talk things through. You got to call Shirley, got to call Pat. Well, Kelly said this. All right. Then you'll come up with a solution, and then you'll question it again. Just looking for, this is what I've noticed in the women in my life. But now when the woman's body recognizes it's a little boy and floods it with testosterone, it causes this little area inside the brain. I like to call it the locus ceruleus. They say that they haven't drawn the natural connection to it yet, but it's a thing that have these tentacles that's coming out of your in the brain. And it causes a man to have this myopic view. And so if he thinks one thing, he's going to run right at it. He just see A to Z, and it's just A to B. And he has the confidence, the testosterone pushes that within him. You got to remember, an average man produces 1,500 sperm per heartbeat. 1,500 sperm per heartbeat. Each one of them is produced with some amount of testosterone. So that gives him this extra thought of, I've got to push through from A to B. So naturally, in a loving, perfect relationship, the woman will think out the possible ways. She can sniff out what could work, like in Cookie and Lucius. She's able to sniff out what will work, and Lucius has the heart to just execute. And that's how the balance between the male and female, I think, works. That's what nature has shown me. That's what the geometry has shown me. So I'm looking for that within the heavens. Okay, where's the equal and opposite? Where's the mama at?
That was the first time you said "I think" during this conversation.
I do make that mistake sometimes.
But that's very interesting because, most people have been saying, Terrence Howard's theories, or he feels this, he thinks that. You've been very confident saying this is what it is.
Well, I have the geometry. I have the geometry. Their math, it doesn't predict the distribution of matter. What I'm about to do in a couple of months it's a wrap. In a couple of months, it's all predictability will be seen. It's something bigger than walking on water. I'm gonna say that just in common conversation.
I want to know what it is.
It's too big to know what it is right now, but there's everything in stages. Everything has its proper place. But this right here, if they look at the videos, they'll understand. Anybody that wants to come and take life's waters free, they can come and take life's water free. Understand, this is your inheritance, the flower of life. It's the inheritance of mankind, of everything.
Yeah.
Come and participate. All I am is the gardener within and it's bounteous. I promise you.
Well, speaking of participate, one of my main questions I did not want to forget to ask you, of all the people laughing and not caring about what you're saying or pretending they don't care, that's what I would say, who's supporting you? Who's helping you? Like, is there any huge scientist or huge, public figure or anybody who has your back besides me?
The geometry. The geometry. A picture speaks 1,000 words. A picture speaks 1,000 words. What we're doing with the SQ energy amplifier, I don't need any more conversation. I don't need to explain anything, or I don't need anybody on my side when the truth is on your side.
No, I mean with your plans. It's going to take money and plans to do all of this, or actual other scientists to really help. Because scientists are acting like they don't understand what you mean, but I'm pretty sure a lot of them do. So you don't really.
We don't need anybody's help. We got it all covered.
I know that's right.
All those bases have been covered. This is just the implementation.
So you say you don't need anyone's help, but if they want to, would you be willing to open up to any type of help, whether it's financial or anything? Or do you feel like you want to do this on your own?
No, I'm willing to open up and to share the truth that's been shared with me.
Okay.
I'm willing to, what someone does with the fruit from the flowers, what they do with it.
Right.
Everyone else is responsible for how they behave with it, But I'm just a gatekeeper. Everyone's welcome to come and take life's water free.
I like that, and I think that's the best part of it. I mean, as soon as I saw that your book was not for sale, I think that's really what got me. I'm like, okay, yeah. Because a lot of people say they have something to say, but then they're, selling it.
Yeah, one of the things I remembered about, like I said, I'm not a Bible thumper, but I remember the stories because for a long time, I learned a lot about life. I often wondered why the Messiah or Jesus in the Christian story didn't turn the bread into stone just to feed himself. Mm-hmm. Why he really didn't. And then I'm thinking about it, it's like you're never supposed to take a gift that you were given freely and charge someone for that which you were given freely. Mm-hmm. That's abusive. You never turn bread into stone into bread to feed yourself. You can feed others with it, but never to feed yourself. And I've lived by that.
Wow.
And as a result, the universe saw kindly enough to allow me to uncover and open up the flower of life itself. The same thing, what's funny, the same people that are laughing now, if Da Vinci was around, if Copernicus was around, if Archimedes, if they were all gathered into a room with Newton and with Einstein and all of that, everyone would be quiet right now, raising their hand, asking questions about the geometry that they desperately were seeking to understand. The linchpin to the Pythagoreans believed that the dodecahedron was the most powerful and all-telling of all geometries. This is where 12 met 5. And so much so that it's been reported that if one of their members were to mention dodecahedron outside of their private meetings, that person should be killed on the spot. What they were really looking for was a contracted dodecahedron, which is the linchpin, which is the source of all things. It is the fractal. That's why when I made that $1 million thing on Andy Cohen, I had said I'll give $1 million to anybody who can build a better common factor of the universe than me, because it was a fixed fight.
Yeah.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap. I'm sorry if I sound confident. I got the truth and God on my back.
Yeah, but that's why I said I was joking before. I said that was the first time you said I think, because you're very, very confident about this, and I think that's what makes me interested. And even after this, if people are watching and they're still confused, it's like it's just your confidence and how specific you are when you're speaking. I'm like, he's got it figured out. And even after this, watching more and more interviews from you, more YouTube videos that you put out, it's just wanting to seek the knowledge is what's most important to me, at least. And you're talking to somebody who's obviously not a scientist, but I'm just fascinated. I think that's the best word.
But I'm not a scientist either. I'm just somebody who's curious about how everything works, and when I was a kid, I just wanted to know how did it all work, and it all comes down to two things interacting.
Yeah.
And the entire universe gets reduced down to what happens when 8 bubbles meet, and what happens when 6 bubbles meet, and how those interact with each other. Because each one of these have a pole, a vortex, a tornado spinning around it. unwinding, and each center also has, I keep losing my thing.
Yep, right there. That's good.
Each center also has its own whirlpool spinning around and collecting, and how they bump into each other like waves crashing, moving in opposite directions. That's how everything in the universe is just some stage of a wave crashing into another wave and resolving. And even though it's taken, in a second, we see a wave turn white and then it goes back to that navy blue. That's a second. Well, our entire universe has been just the result of two waves crashing into each other, and it's all that we see is this foam that's about to disappear, but this has been lasting for hundreds of trillions of years. I'll say this last thing, just because I know somebody's going to take offense to what I just said there. They say our universe is 13.7 billion years old. Well, our Earth moves away from the sun at 6 inches a year. The Earth has been moving away from the sun since the moment that it formed. That means every 10,560 years, the Earth moves 1 mile away from the sun. In order for the Earth to be 93 million miles away from the sun, that means the Earth would have moved 982 billion 80 million years. It would take 982 billion, 80 million years in order for the Earth to reach 93 million miles away from the sun. Well, that means that's linearly. If you just added 6 inches a year, but wait a minute, well, how then did the Earth, they say the Earth is only 4.6 billion years old. Well, that means that it would only have moved about 341,000 miles since its creation. Now, the Big Bang happening 13.7 billion years ago means that at the moment of the Big Bang, the Earth was 91 million miles away from the sun already, which doesn't explain Jupiter or Mars at 143 or 40-something million miles away from the sun. It would take 1,549 billion years for Mars to get to where it's at. It would take 5 trillion years linearly for Jupiter to be where it's at. And the furthest planet away from us, Neptune, you're talking 29 trillion years at a similar rate to 6 inches a year. And they say that our Earth the universe is 13.7 billion years old.
So throw all the science classes away, basically.
I'm saying just take a look and add it up yourself. And that's looking at it linearly. You got to remember, it unwinds like a corkscrew. That's 6 inches, so it could be even much larger. This is me just looking at it 6 inches. So you really could wind up the entire galaxy and wind up all of the galaxies and get to the true age of the universe. That's what this technology allows us to do.
So what is the true age of the universe?
Well,
from your science, the scientific discoveries.
All I can say is that our Earth is at least 982 billion years old.
Wow.
That is at least 982 billion years old, and we have another 38 billion years before we move out of the Goldilocks zone and are at 98 million miles away from the sun, and we're become really cold and unable to recover from the cold. And each time we go further away, we'll be at a lower pressure condition, and everything will expand like, nitrogen coming out of the ocean. When you come up, you have to slow down because the nitrogen wants to expand and they want you to equalize before you come out of the water. Do you know what I'm talking about?
A little bit, slightly. I'm just trying to follow you.
It's called the bends. So likewise, as the Earth gets further away from the sun, it moves into a lower pressure condition, and therefore the nitrogen expands more.
Okay.
Ultimately to a point where it can no longer be held by the vortices that hold our Earth together. And so we become like the planet Mars. pushed further away from the sun. And at the same time, Venus is slowly moving into this place. And in 271 billion years, Venus is going to be right here at the Goldilocks zone, and all of this life will happen all over again.
Oh my goodness.
That's just how simple it all works. It's just the truth. And I'm sorry if it messes up a bunch of books. This is the truth, and this is the geometry behind the truth. And it can be tested. Any person that hears this can go and wind up our solar system.
Mm. Now, can I ask you this? I know you said you're retiring from acting, but everything that you're, letting me know now and everything you're teaching, everything in your book, would you consider doing either a documentary or a movie, just because the average person may not still grasp it just from you discussing it, just from reading the book? Is there any type of other documentary, like, type of project you would do for this? Just because I think some people may learn it a little bit differently if it's in film.
Well, like the scripture says, let him that has ears hear, let him that has eyes see.
Okay.
I've spent enough time communicating in that void. That is a true void.
Okay.
With a lot of agendas. And, I'll rather use the sunshine and the space that's provided. And those that need to hear will hear.
Yes.
And those that the flower calls, that the Father calls. They'll get the message and they'll move on it. That's just what I'm waiting for. I just like participating in showing that the way to the tree of life has been open. Come take life's waters free and see where it leads you. Read the book. It's working.
I'm gonna read it all over again, but I'm gonna read it out loud so this guy, my husband, he can explain. I mean,
follow the prompts. You got to follow the prompts in it. That's each one leads and explains itself, because I know these are seemingly complicated things, but all I'm talking about is one thing spinning to the left and one thing spinning to the right, and it just happens repeatedly.
Yeah, I still need to read it again. I'm gonna just be honest. I need to read it again, or like even your at the very end, like where you're not showing the platonic solids, like throw all of that away. You have your own, and then you named them. I did notice, you named them after you named them, like it's with your wife. Your wife's name was in there somewhere.
Yeah,
I think I might have saw your son's name in there somewhere.
Yeah, my sons, my first two daughters. I mean, how do you think? Well, why shouldn't I name them after my children?
No, I'm here for it. Listen, I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just saying I acknowledged it. I'm like, okay, wait. He's writing his own. Well, not your own, but you know what I mean. You're naming it on your own.
Yeah, well, it discovered me when I was by myself. So, that's how the truth behaves with you. Nature is a very jealous God, and she only reveals her secrets when you are alone with her, and she reveals them in whispers. You have to be open. You've got to be listening. You've got to be looking for it. Your heart has to be churned just right. But once that truth hits you, that bell of purpose, like I say, mentioned in the book, that's my joy. That little boy that asked the question, why does a bubble take the shape of a ball? Why not a square or triangle? That little boy got his answer. And when I asked God, how does everything work? The Creator was like, yes, this is how it works. And I'm going to let you share it with everybody else. I'm going to give you this big platform as an actor. And I'm gonna make you a loudmouth on top of it.
Oh God, I hope that's what I'm saying. I hope I do it justice. I mean, I appreciate, and I'm looking at you. I just want to say this, like, just the joy on your face, and I'm sure you love acting. I mean, because you're phenomenal at it. But the joy on your face right now, that's everything for me, at least. Just as a fan.
Now you got me tearing up because I'm actually. The truth is, when you light Like you can't. Everybody knows when you're in love. Everybody knows it's everywhere, and we know it's when it's true love because
Yes.
then it bounces.
Yep.
Consciousness consists in brain activity, 86 billion neurons, possibly 100 trillion.
At yun yung mga agila, ang interview kay Terence Howard. At yung another source naman na pwede nyo makita is kay Joe Rogan na experience. At makita nyo dun yung explanation ni Terence Howard tungkol sa information sa wisdom of the universe na ma-integrate natin physically at spiritually na makita natin at magamit natin yung ancient wisdom na iniwan sa atin ng mga ancestors natin. At yan mga agila na dahil sa control mga agila ng private contractor at mga elites, yan yung nangyayari mga agila na once na mag kontra ka sa system nila, ang nangyayari, tapos ka talaga kasi ginagawang biro yung statement mo at yan yung mga agila, mga information na kung handa tayo, kung hindi pa tayo handa, yung information na sinisend o china-channel sa atin is hindi yan siya mag-sink in if hindi tayo ready na i-surrender at mag-let go sa na-program na takot sa atin ng mga elite families. At yan yung mga agila na sa Flower of Life mga agila, kung makikita natin na yung energy na ma-utilize gamit yung na-discovery ni Terence Howard is we can take advantage sa opportunities na yung kuryente is libre. At yan yung mga agila na kailan pa tayo maggising sa katotohanan na yung nag-control sa lahat sa resources sa resources ng mundo ng lahat dahil sa profit. At yan yung mga agila na nawawala tayo sa trajection ng consciousness natin. At yan yung mga agila na yung kung hindi tayo magising, ang mangyayari mga agila is yung kung narinig natin na the end of the world is yan yung cycle na nangyari sa mga ancient civilizations na yung cycle ng solar system. At yan yung mga agila na yung earth is naga palayo sa sun inches sa explanation niya na every year. At yan yung pwede nating mga agila na yung flower of life is nandyan yan siya na ancient wisdom na ma-utilize ng humanity na magamit sa tama at ma-free tayo sa control ng mga piling pamilya. So, at yan yung mga agila. At dito naman mga agila is maraming mga nag-against o mga information na, for example mga agila, si Julian Assange, kung ma-research nyo mga agila na yung mga nangyayaring dishonesty sa government sa Amerika, at yan yung mga agila na mga walang tawag nito yung control mga agila na nakuha ni Julian Assange at nalaman ng buong mundo na kung ano yung mga movement na mga hindi magagandang actions ng nasa power. At yun mga agila na hanggang ngayon mga agila, yung kaso ni Julian Assange is nagpapatuloy pa rin. At yan yung movement na kung mag-participate tayo na mag-vote na palayain si Julian Assange, yan yung tulong natin na mayroong tao na nakikipaglaban para sa karapatan natin, na hindi lang tawag nito, yung kung sa ano pa mga agila na kung ano yung tama is yan yung dapat gawin. At yan yung mga agila na inano niya, tawag nito, kinontra niya yung pinaka mga powerful na tawag nito, na mga tao na nagkontrol sa mga nangyayari sa paligid. At i-search natin mga agila si Julian Assange.
Good evening, London. What a sight for sore eyes. People ask what gives me hope. Well, the answer is right here. My God. 6 months ago, 185 days ago, I entered this building. It has become my home, my office, and my refuge. Thanks to the principled stance of the Ecuadorian government and the support of its people, I am safe in this embassy to speak to you. And every single day outside, for 185 days, people like you have watched over this embassy, come rain, hail, and shine, every single day. I came here in summer. It is winter now. I have been sustained by your solidarity, and I'm grateful for the efforts of people all around the world supporting the work of WikiLeaks. supporting freedom of speech, freedom of the press, essential elements in any democracy. While my freedom is limited, at least I am still able to communicate this Christmas, unlike the 232 journalists who are in jail tonight. Unlike Gottfried Svaltholm in Sweden tonight. Unlike Jeremy Hammond in New York tonight. Unlike Nabil Rajab in Bahrain tonight. And unlike Bradley Manning, who turned 25 this week. A young man who has maintained his dignity after spending more than 10% of his life in jail without trial, some of that time in a cage, naked and without his glasses. And unlike so many others whose plights are linked to my own, I salute these brave men and women. And I salute journalists and publications that have covered what continues to happen to these people. And to journalists who continue publishing the truth in face of persecution, prosecution and threat, who take journalism and publishing seriously, because it is from the revelation of truth that all else follows. Our buildings can only be as tall as their bricks are strong. Our civilization is only as strong as its ideas are true. When our buildings are erected by the corrupt, when their cement is cut with dirt, when pristine steel is replaced by scrap, our buildings are not safe to live in. And when our media is corrupt, when our academics are timid, when our history is filled with half-truths and lies, our civilization will never be just. It will never reach to the sky. Our societies are intellectual shanty towns. Our beliefs about the world and each other have been created by the same system that has lied us into repeated wars that have killed millions. You can't build a skyscraper out of plasticine, and you can't build a just civilization out of ignorance and lies. We have to educate each other. We have to celebrate those who reveal the truth and denounce those who poison our ability to comprehend the world that we live in. The quality of our discourse is the limit of our civilization. But this generation has come to its feet and is revolutionizing the way we see the world. For the first time in history, the people who are affected by history are its creators. And for other journalists and publications, your work speaks for itself, and so do your war crimes. I salute those who recognize the freedom of the press and the public's right to know, recognized in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, recognized in the First Amendment of the United States. We must recognize that these are in danger and need protection like never before. WikiLeaks is under a continuing Department of Justice investigation, and this fact has been recognized rightly by Ecuador and the governments of Latin America as one that materially endangers my life and my work. Asylum is not granted on a whim, but granted on facts. The US investigation is referred to in testimony under oath in the US courts, is admitted by the Department of Justice, and in the Washington Post just 4 days ago by the District Attorney of Virginia as a fact. Its subpoenas are being litigated by our people in the US courts. The Pentagon reissued its threats against me in September and claimed the very existence of WikiLeaks is an ongoing crime. My work will not be cowed. but why this immoral investigation continues and why the Australian government will not defend the journalism and publishing of WikiLeaks, I must remain here. However, the door is open, and the door has always been open for anyone who wishes to speak to me. Like you, I have not been charged with a crime. If you ever see spin that suggests otherwise, note this corruption of journalism, and then go to justiceforassange.com for the full facts. Tell the world the truth, and tell the world who lied to you. Despite the limitations, despite the extrajudicial banking blockade, which circles WikiLeaks like the Cuban embargo, despite an unprecedented criminal investigation and a campaign to damage and destroy my organisation, 2012 has been a huge year. We have released nearly 1 million documents relating to the unfolding war in Syria. We have exposed the mass surveillance state and hundreds of documents from private intelligence companies. We have released information about the treatment of detainees at Guantanamo Bay and elsewhere, the symbol of the corruption of the rule of law in the West and beyond. We've won against the immoral blockade in the courts and in the European Parliament. After a 2-year fight, contributions to WikiLeaks have gone from being blockaded and tax deductible nowhere to being tax deductible across the entirety of the European Union and the United States. And last week, information revealed by WikiLeaks was vital and cited in the judgment in determining what really happened to El Masri, an innocent European kidnapped and tortured by the CIA. Next year will be equally busy. WikiLeaks has already over 1 million documents being prepared to be released. Documents that affect every country in the world. Every country in this world. And in Australia, an unelected senator will be replaced by one that is elected. In 2013, we continue to stand up to bullies. The Ecuadorian government and the governments of Latin America have shown how cooperating through shared values can embolden governments to stand up to coercion and support self-determination. Their governments threaten no one, attack no one, send drones at no one, but together they stand strong and independent. The tide calls of Washington power brokers for economic sanctions against Ecuador simply for defending my rights are misguided and wrong. President Correa rightly said Ecuador's principles are not for sale. We must unite together to defend the courageous people of Ecuador, to defend them against intervention in their economy and interference in their elections next year. The power of people speaking up and resisting together terrifies corrupt and undemocratic power. So much so that ordinary people here in the West are now the enemy of governments, an enemy to be watched, an enemy to be controlled and to be impoverished. True democracy is not the White House. True democracy is not Canberra. True democracy is the resistance of people armed with the truth against lies from Tahrir to right here in London. Every day, ordinary people teach us that democracy is free speech and dissent. For once, we the people stop speaking out and stop dissenting. Once we are distracted or pacified, once we turn away from each other, we are no longer free. For true democracy is the sum of our resistance. If you don't speak up, if you give up what is uniquely yours as a human being, if you surrender your consciousness, your independence, your sense of what is right and what is wrong. In other words, perhaps without knowing it, you become passive and controlled, unable to defend yourselves and those you love. People often ask, what can I do? The answer is not so difficult. Learn how the world works. Challenge the statements and intentions of those who seek to control us behind a facade of democracy and monarchy. Unite in common purpose and common principle to design, build, document, finance, and defend. Learn, challenge, act, now.
Honor, and I'm very grateful for the organisers for inviting everyone and me. And I see in the front row we have Anwar Ibrahim, who I met in Malaysia last year at a by-election for the opposition, just after speaking.
Alors, ça fera peur.
And the helicopter pilots and the gunner murder these people. This is a war crime. And yet Julian has to be extradited for reporting a war crime.
Si Assange est extradé vers les États-Unis, alors ça fera peser un poids sur le journalisme d'investigation en général.
Para mí está en juego la libertad de prensa, la libertad de acceso a la información, de hacer un periodismo independiente, veraz, sin limitaciones. Esto incomoda mucho al poder.
It's a vindictive persecution, which is an attack on press freedom worldwide, and it should be fought by all means.
The story of WikiLeaks begins in the middle of the war in Iraq. A handful of hackers and a few journalists. They quickly made the US military's worst nightmare a reality by revealing a classified video to the world.
When I first saw it, actually it didn't have that much impact on me. Because I didn't know where it was, when it was, what was the circumstances, who were these people, etc. It was only by following the path through the thing and seeing how relaxed and sort of innocent most of the people were in the video that the carnage then became so outrageous.
The video is complex. To better decipher it, the founder of WikiLeaks and his team moved to Reykjavik, the capital of Iceland. They rent a discreet house they call The Bunker. It's July 2007. An Apache helicopter flies over a neighborhood in Baghdad. The onboard camera spots a group of Iraqis on the ground. Two of them are carrying weapons. The pilot, in radio contact with his base, requests permission to fire.
Hotel 26, Crazy Horse 18, have 5 to 6 individuals with AK-47s. Request permission to engage.
Once I started discovering more and more detail, this is when it became more emotional. So to understand that, yes, this person was a journalist from Reuters, and this was a driver from Reuters.
Among the victims, WikiLeaks identifies Saeed Shama, a Reuters assistant driver, and photographer Namir Noor Eldin.
The helicopter pilot obviously sees Namir and Saeed as insurgent and instantly decides that the cameras are weapons.
An RPG. All right, we got a guy with an RPG. Firing.
But this is what death sentence, basically, for those guys.
Light them all up. Come on, fire. Hey, Roger. Keep shooting. Keep shooting. The Hotel 26, Crazy Horse, 18. Oh yeah, look at those dead bastards.
A few minutes later, the nature of the incident changes. The mission becomes a war crime. A black van approaches to assist the wounded. Inside there are no combatants, just 2 men with 2 children. The pilot makes up an imminent threat and requests permission to fire again.
Roger. Stop break. Crazy Horse 1, request permission to engage. I'm picking up the wounded. Yeah, we're trying to get permission to engage. Come on, let us shoot.
Bushmaster 7, Roger. This is Bushmaster 7, Roger, engage.
Come on. Clear. Clear. We're engaged. Coming around, clear. Roger. Trying to, oh yeah, look at that, right through the windshield.
On the ground, corpses everywhere. The helicopter then captures on film the arrival of a group of soldiers. Among them, Ethan McCord.
So this is me here. I was one of about 6 who were dismounted at the time, running up onto the scene. I had never seen anything like that before. I saw on the corner what appeared to have been 3 men. They were completely destroyed by the 30mm rounds.
Clear.
It almost, to me, didn't seem real. It kind of seemed like something that you would see out of a bad horror movie.
The soldier.
So, yun mga agila na yung movement na once na kontra ka sa tawag nito sa system, at yan yung movement ng WikiLeaks na yung mga information na nakuha nila sa website ng sa system din ng gobyerno ng Amerika. At yan yung mga agila na kalaban ka talaga kung kahit mayroon ka pang freedom of rights. At yun yung system mga agila na kung makikita natin na yung mga nangyayari is isang kung sa ano pa halimbawa na yung ibang journalist, activist is matakot. At yun yung kagandahan mga agila na mayroon pa rin sa atin na nakikipag sinusugal yung mga buhay nila na malaman natin yung katotohanan at ano yung system na sinasabi ni Julian Assange na nagkukontrol sa atin. At yan yung mga agila tanong na paano natin maunawaan yung mga nangyayari kung imbes na mayroon tayong makuha na impormasyon na matutunan natin, is binablock kagad natin mismo sa sarili natin kasi napaniwala na nila tayo na kung ano yung kung sa ano pa na lason nila yung kung paano tayo mag-isip. At yan yung mga agila na yung information na to is magsisink in sa atin sa tamang panahon na handa ka at makikita nyo to. At mayroon din mga agila, ipakikita ko si Robert Breedlove. So, i-search natin mga agila. Tawagan eh. Sino yun siya? Saglit lang mga agila. Hanapin natin yung interview ni Robert Kiyosaki at ni Robert Breedlove. Ayun. So,
Hello, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news, and today, bad news about money. And, people, well, you're such a pessimist. Well, I've been a pessimist for a long time. And it is going to make us very rich to be pessimists. And we have a very important guest today. And I shamelessly plug Rich Dad is putting on an event called in April 6th, 7th, 8th. And I'll give a view of the whole thing here is that this is the cash flow board game. And when Kim and I designed this game, it was, 1996?
1996.
And we designed this here, and it's called The Rat Race. And this is what happens when you go to school, get a job, save your money, get out of debt, and invest in the stock market in a 401k, IRA, or something like this. These guys, in the next few months, will be toasted. They'll be like a marshmallow over a campfire.
Saglit ng mga agila. Parang tingnan natin kung mayroong mas magandang ano. Ibalik ko muna saglit mga agila. Wala siyang ano, audio lang siya. So, hindi masyadong klaro yung ano, pero maghanap lang tayo ng video ni Robert tawag nito? Robert Breedlove mga agila na yung mission niya din mga agila na kung sa ano pa gina-push niya na idea is yung fiat currency is kung sa ano pa is ang nangyayari is kinukuha yung freedom natin using the currency at yung movement na to mga agila is kung sa ano pa magbigay din sa pangkalahatan sa atin ng kung ano yung tama at yan din yung pinaano ni Terence Howard mga agila na 1 times 1 ang sa system natin is ang result is 1 but in reality mga agila action plus action equals reaction at yan yung dito mga agila na mayroong hawig yung mission nila na mabuksan kung ano yung totoo at maghanap na lang tayo ng video na mas klaro.
This is the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. Here's Robert Kiyosaki.
Hello, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. And we have a very, very exciting guest today. He's one of the smartest guys I know. I call him the best looking guy in crypto, better looking than Max Kaiser. but it's for all you Bitcoin and crypto fanatics out there. This is your show. But it's also for you old guys, you Peter Schiff fans, who can't really seem to get it. Like Schiff's always yelling about Bitcoin and crypto, and then the Bitcoin guys attack him. And to me, it's silly. All that counts to me is how much have you got, and it's not what's the price. How many ounces of silver do you have? How many ounces of gold do you have? And how many Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever it is? That's all that counts to me. Whether it was right or wrong, we'll discuss that. But why argue about it? So we have our very special guest, Robert Breedlove, who's a good friend of my other friend, Anthony Pompliano. And the thing about being an old guy is I learn from the young guys, because this we've never been here before. We're on the edge of something so effing big that nobody knows where we're going. So welcome back to the program, Mr. Breedlove. And we're saying the same thing. It's going to be an exciting 10 years, huh?
Yes, it's going to be exciting, potentially painful if you're not positioned correctly, and transformative. And thank you, Robert, for having me back. I'm glad to be here.
Oh no, I'm almost blown away at how smart you young guys are. I used to hope when I got to be an old guy, I'd be the smart guy, but now I'm the old guy. I'm still the old stupid guy. But anyway, things are changing so fast. Hey, quick, give us a bit of your background, Mr. Breedlove, Robert.
Yeah, sure. So I have my undergraduate master's degree in accounting and finance. I was a certified public accountant for a number of years, focusing on tax strategy for investment partnerships and high net worth individuals. I then shifted gears and was pretty much a career CFO, mostly focused in tech, and then got involved in crypto assets in 2014, made it professional in 2017, and I've been traveling down the proverbial Bitcoin rabbit hole ever since, studying monetary history, government, politics, basically exclusively for the past 4 years.
And the reason your background is important is because accountancy is everything to me. That's Rich Dad Poor Dad's a book on accounting. Yeah. Assets, liabilities, income, expenses, that's all it is, taxes.
Yeah.
And most people don't know much about it.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I think today, what the real message I'm trying to get across.
Saglit lang mga agila kasi yung i-extend natin. Okay.
Today is we've been conditioned to think inflation is not that big of a deal. And I think when you really consider economics from first principles, you'll come to see inflation as it's a coercive, thieving, and a moral force. And it's very simply just the stealing of wealth by those who can print money from those who cannot print money. And as the old saying goes, inflation is the surest way to fertilize the rich man's field with the sweat of the poor man's brow.
Amen. And then what a lot of people don't know when I talk about financial education, I go back to Gresham's Law. And Gresham's Law says when bad money enters, good money goes into hiding. And so this has gone on throughout history. The Romans did it, the Germans did it, Zimbabwe did it, Venezuela's doing it. It's Gresham's Law. When you have fake money enter the system, which would happen in 1971 when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, Gresham's Law took effect. And good money, i.e. gold and silver, went into hiding. And I've been in silver since 1964 and gold since 1972. And I don't save dollars because I support Gresham's Law. Remember, Hitler came to power because of Gresham's Law. Mm-hmm. When in World War I, they messed with the Reichsmark, the German currency after World War I.
That's right.
So here we are again today. And they're still doing the same old thing. I mean, Biden's going to print, I think $5 trillion this year. This is 2021. And people are still working for the dollar. I mean, as a CPA and a finance guy working with high net worth individuals, what do you say to people right now who are trying to save U.S. dollars?
Well, it's funny you brought up Gresham's Law, which is a very true law that bad money chases good money out of circulation. People are smart. People save good money, they spend bad money, right? It's incentives. There's another law actually related to bad money itself, and it's related to inflation. So inflation progresses according to the law of accelerating issue and depreciation.
Well, what was it again? I'm an old guy. I'm a Biden effect here. You got to get a little slower.
The law of accelerating issuance and depreciation. So I'll work through it a little bit. And this is a law that works as surely as gravity. We've seen it happen many times throughout history. So for a monetary authority, it's typically easier to resist the first issuance or the first expansion of the money supply. But once they start engaging in inflation, the second issuance or the second expansion becomes much more difficult to resist. And by the third, fourth, and fifth, it's basically inevitable. They're just going to respond with more and more inflation. So fiat currency itself, it is actually born by borrowing. So systemically, the supply of dollars can never be sufficient to satisfy the debts that it creates. So it's incentivizing the creation of debt from the outset.
And the way the money, with being a CPA, the reason that works is the way they get the money back is via taxation.
Yeah, and seigniorage, frankly. They're buying government treasuries, right? The Fed's buying government treasuries, so they're paying at this. There's never, the point of the story is there's never enough dollars in the system to satisfy the debt it creates. It's a self-annihilating system.
But it's also Triffin's dilemma. Because you could never, ever fix it. It would always go farther and further and further into debt.
Right. So the inflation that accelerates and gets worse over time. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, as you might say. And there's very simple consequences on market actors are when money holds value, people save. When money loses value, people go into debt. Or if you're a corporation, you buy back your shares, or you engage in other risky activities to try and outperform inflation. So it creates this artificial hurdle rate for all market actors. And that's what we're steeped in today. We are far down that road, and that's what I'd like to talk about is, Bitcoin and the next 10 years of money.
Right. And so the reason I love having on the program is because you have the financial depth from traditional finance. But to go into Bitcoin, which is the future, I'm going to talk about the next 10 years. And surprisingly, one of the reasons I created the Rich Dad Company was because of Gresham's Law. The bad money chases out good money, or good money goes into hiding. I never saw Bitcoin. And now I'm going, holy moly, what's going to happen next? So what do you think is going to happen next, Mr. Breedlove?
Yeah, no one saw Bitcoin coming. No one had any expectation that gold could be disrupted, or even have a competitor for that matter. So it's very interesting times we live in. But I think the U.S. in 2021 is on equivalent monetary footing to France in 1791.
Okay.
And to put a few numbers to this, so after France had been expanding its money supply roughly 300% in the years leading up to 1791. They then settled into an annual expansion of 18% per year in 1792.
Okay.
I'm going to walk you through the history of France, and I'll tie it back to the U.S. So 1792, France is expanding 18% a year. They double their money supply expansion again to 35% in 1794. Again, the law of accelerating issuance and depreciation. The more money they printed, the more money they had to print to keep the thing going. Then in 1795, France quadrupled their money supply expansion rate to 145% per year. And finally, in 1796, the printing press, where they're actually creating the currency, the assignats, was publicly broken and burned so they could prove that they would not print anymore. And the currency had fallen to zero, basically. And so in that 6-year period, 1790 to 1796, France expanded its money supply 100x and fully depreciated its currency. So if we use that as kind of a framing, and that there's many historical examples, but I just picked one that conveys the law of accelerating issuance and depreciation to tie that to the U.S. In the U.S. today, from 2001 to 2020, we've expanded our money supply roughly 250%. So just a little bit less than France did. And recently, in 2020, we've started expanding our money supply at about 18% per year. Now, that's a conservative estimate. The actual numbers are roughly 25%, but I'm just going to go with 18 to be conservative.
So we're tracking right on the numbers.
Tracking right on the numbers. And so if we again, looking at the law of accelerating issuance and depreciation, I would predict that by the year 2024, we will be forced to double that issuance rate again. So from 18% to 35%. And as you alluded to earlier, Biden is already talking about $5 and $10 trillion stimulus packages. That would be well in excess of 35% expansion. So I think that will happen again. And then by the year 2030, I would expect that we have to quadruple that rate again, reaching a monetary expansion rate in the US of 145% annually. By that time, so if those rates hold between now and 2030, where we increase to 35% in 2024 and 145% in 2030, the total U.S. M2 money supply will have expanded from today it's around 20 trillion. It will expand 25x to $500 trillion. That's what I think is going to happen in the next decade in the U.S. money supply. And then if we look abroad, I think what you're going to have is just a wave of smaller currency collapses, smaller sovereigns with weaker currencies. They will just be collapsing stronger currencies like the dollar, like the Chinese yuan as well. And by the end of this decade, I would expect that the total purchasing power of the dollar globally today it represents about 20%. So global M2 is roughly 100 trillion. The dollar is about 20 trillion. So it represents 20% of global purchasing power. I think it will double. So as some of these currencies collapse, they collapse into the dollar. So by the end of the decade, year 2030, I would expect the US to have about 40%, US dollar to have about 40% of global purchasing power. So if the dollar is at a $500 trillion market cap and it represents 40% of global M2, that means the global money supply is expanded to $1.25 quadrillion. That is $1,250 trillion, which is about 12x what it is today.
So that sounds like the derivatives market to me, which is a completely BS market. But we'll come back. The people love numbers and all this, but one of the reasons people want to listen to you right now is everybody wants to know, in 2031, what is your prediction for the price of Bitcoin? That is the only thing that people really care about right now, so they're going to make a decision whether they buy or not. Not on France, not on anything like this, but what does Robert Breed love to see the future, given if history tracks, which it seems to be tracking, what will the price of Bitcoin be in 2031, which is 10 years? We'll be right back. Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. Good news and bad news about money. You can listen to the Rich Dad Radio program anytime, anywhere on iTunes or Android and YouTube. And then please leave a review whenever you listen. All of our programs are archived at richdadradio.com. We archive them because we're an education company. We make no recommendations. We're purely educational. Anything we say, take with a grain of salt. We don't recommend anything. And the most important thing is if you listen to this program again, you'll learn twice as much because repetition is how we learn. That's how you become a better golfer. Repeat, keep repeating. But also listen to this with friends, family, and business associates, especially those out there who are saving their stimulus check and hoping this will save them from what's coming down the road. Because our guest today is a friend of the Rich Dad Company, Rich Dad Radio, Robert Breedlove, and he's a founder and CEO and CIO of Parallax Digital. He's not only a CPA, but he's also an expert on this thing called Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And he's talking about what's going to happen in the next 10 years with the US dollar, gold, silver, but most importantly, Bitcoin. So before we go on, Robert was talking about something about which is beyond my head, but we had our good friend, his name is Philip Haslam. He's from South Africa. He wrote the book, When Currency Destroys Nations. And he was writing about the fall of Zimbabwe. And he's saying exactly the same thing Robert Breedlove is saying. He calls it the 7 falls. And the 7 falls is once a country like Zimbabwe starts to print money, you take the first jump and you can't go back up. Then you take the next jump and there's 4 more falls to go and you keep jumping. And so that's what Robert Breedlove's talking about in this program here is America's already gone down that road. We took a big jump in 2021. This is March 2021, and we're going to keep jumping. So the question is, Mr. Breedlove, what do you see happening in the future? I mean, we have 2031 coming, and everybody was going to hold it till last, but what do you think the future price of Bitcoin might be in 2031? But keep going into your analysis of why we have to keep jumping.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's an old saying that says it's harder to stop halfway downhill than to just not go initially. And I think that's what inflation is. Yeah. And this law that we mentioned, this law of accelerating issuance and depreciation related to currency, this is an ancient law. I mean, it's been written about for hundreds and hundreds of years. This is not a joke. This is not something I made up. This is something you can find everywhere, that this pattern repeats. Once countries start down this path, it's very bad and it's inescapable. You can't turn back. So going into 2031, which as we left off earlier, I would expect the U.S. money supply to expand from 20 trillion-ish today to about 500 trillion in the next 10 years. I expect global M2 to expand roughly 12x, from around 100 trillion to about 1,250 trillion, 1.25 quadrillion. And the difference there is that a lot of the weaker international currencies will have collapsed into the dollar. So the dollar will actually have grown in purchasing power overall. And I think by this time, so going into 2031, let's say, that Bitcoin will have continued its growth trajectory. It will have played out another one of these price cycles. Possibly its price cycle will have broken and it just gone into a long, slow grind upwards as people realize it's a game of accumulation. And I think Bitcoin by this time will have reached about 20% of global purchasing power. So this would imply Bitcoin's market cap in 2031 dollars to be about $250 trillion. So that's about 1/5 of global M2 stored in Bitcoin. Now, accounting for inflation, that means Bitcoin's market cap in today's dollars would be about 20 trillion. So in 2031 dollars, and this is a very bright line to distinguish, I think Bitcoin by the year 2031 will be north of $12.5 million per Bitcoin.
Jesus.
But
$12.5 million per coin?
$12.5 million. But adjusting for inflation, it will only feel like north of $1 million per Bitcoin in 2021 dollars, because the dollar will have lost so much of its value by then. $12.5 million will spin like $1 million. So that's my prediction for by 2031. And then that's going to clearly have some big impact on fiat currencies, including the dollar.
Well, again, that goes back to Gresham's law, is that the more fake money what you're talking about is when they increase M2 and M3 and all of those stuff they taught me in economics, which I forgot. It's just printing more money. That's all they're doing.
Right.
And so that's what gives Bitcoin and the blockchain technology so much more credibility than the central bank money. Fake money, I call it.
That's right. It's so, as I've said in a past episode with you, actually, it's a pyramid scheme.
Oh, God, yes.
When we say printing money, you're not actually creating any new wealth or value.
No.
You're just shifting the claims on existing capital. And you're stealing from those that are dependent on the dollar to hold its value, which are the poor, those living on fixed income, retirees, pensioners. You're stealing from the most economically vulnerable,
right,
and giving to those with access to the freshly printed money.
Right. And look, this is why my wife and I started the Rich Dad Companies. We need financial education. Just as simple as Gresham's law. Fake money drives out good money. You have bad money. And our Federal Reserve Bank, the smartest guys on earth, don't fight the Fed. They're printing trillions.
Yeah.
And we have millions of Americans and people all over the world waiting for the stimulus check. We're going to crush them. From your financial background, in my opinion, every time we print money, we just create more poor people. That's what we're doing. Well, what do you have to say about that? We're just creating poor people.
You're 100% correct. And the fact that Jerome Powell can go on national television and say that there's no causation between monetary policy and wealth disparity is a testament to the times we're living in. We are drowning in deception in this world. It's just the whole thing's built on lies. And I would argue, and I think many Bitcoiners would argue, it starts and ends with the money. We have a lie built into our money, right? The paper was once redeemable for gold. That became a lie.
Because we violated Gresham's law. We produced bad money.
That's right.
Throughout history, the Romans did it, Germans did it, Zimbabwe did it, Venezuela's doing it, everybody's doing it. And now we have Bitcoin, blockchain, Ethereum. So that's why, as an old guy, I've got to keep my mind open, and I got to defend the old guy like Peter Schiff, who keeps going back and forth. I'm going to just buy some stupid Bitcoin, Peter. Why argue?
Yeah, it's when we corrupt and violate the trust fabric that connects, which is money, society unravels. And that is, we have lots of anecdotal evidence of that throughout history. Every time the currency collapses, the civilization collapses. So, and I would argue that it's, clearly I'm very focused on Bitcoin. I don't advocate for other cryptocurrencies. I don't think Ethereum is going to be a big deal, or as big of a deal as Bitcoin. I think gold, it's a 5,000-year-old technology, will only be disrupted once, and that is by Bitcoin. And that's what we're going to see play out over the next 10 years. So with Bitcoin by 2031, north of $12.5 million per coin, it's equal to about 20% of the global purchasing power. So it's about half the dollar's value in total. But again, the dollar will have increased according to the law of accelerating issuance and depreciation. Its issuance rate will have increased, I'm predicting, to north of 145%. By the early 2030s. This would be early stage hyperinflation. Or you could say actually probably medium stage hyperinflation. Typically a currency won't last more than a few years under that growth.
This is the infamous Weimar Republic, which led to the rise of Adolf Hitler.
That's right. Every dictator, every internment camp, every world war in human history was funded by fiat currency.
Right.
Because those individuals were not limited to the bounds of their own balance sheet. They could use fiat currency to steal the savings from the entire society and just keep going to war until everyone's broke.
It's like the story of my mother. She'd always say, "How can I be broke? I still have checks." committee. So let me take the old guy side, okay? I'm gonna challenge you on this side. So as an old guy, I was just in Park City the other day. Again, this is March 2021 because the date, everything's changing so quickly. These guys came up to me and they were telling me about the new altcoins or something they're producing. And, when I talk to guys like you, they say, well, Bitcoin is the network. Well, just being an old guy, the network is like McDonald's. What gives McDonald's power is they're a franchise network. But there was also a Blockbuster Video that digital blew out of the water. Why would you go to Blockbuster where you can download digitally? So these young guys were coming up to me saying, Bitcoin is trash because they're going to start another currency. So being an old guy, how would you explain to me that idea? Because it's coming out of your head. It's not coming out of a gold mine or a silver mine. But by the way, Park City was a silver mine. So how couldn't somebody just create their own Bitcoin and their own network and just blow Bitcoin out of the water?
So this is a nuanced answer to the question. It's not a straightforward question to answer because many people think, iPhone disrupted BlackBerry, Facebook disrupted MySpace, something can disrupt Bitcoin. The first answer would be money itself. Why is money as a network valued? And it turns out that there are properties to money: divisibility, durability, recognizability, portability, scarcity. And then the network that gets built up around that is valued based on how liquid it is and what the network effects are. So how many people you can exchange with. This is
so let me give you the old guy story. Okay, it's like McDonald's. I can go into McDonald's here in Beijing and then get a Big Mac, and it tastes about the same. The French fries are about the same. That's the network or the effect. That's what gives McDonald's its power.
Yeah, I would modify it slightly and say, again, gold's a good analogy here. It's like if I have a lot of gold, I know I can buy it or sell it on the market with least loss in price. So
Right.
it has a lot of saleability, a lot of marketability.
It's liquid. There's demand all over the world for it.
So new investors always prefer the most liquid money.
Right.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, basically. It's the same reason, the argument I commonly make is the same quantifiable reasons we only have one analog gold. For those same reasons, we will only have one digital gold. And then again, if you look at those properties of money that gold best satisfied historically, divisibility, durability, recognizability, portability, scarcity, Bitcoin has essentially perfected them. It's a pure digital asset, so it's infinitely divisible. It's stored in a distributed way, so the information does not break down. This is something like the Bible, right? The Bible's outlasted empires because it's distributed information. It's infinitely portable because it's digital. You can move it at the speed of light. It's infinitely recognizable, meaning you can audit the total supply, you can run a node, you can verify the money supply. Anyone can do it anywhere for free. And then finally, it has perfect scarcity. It's the first asset in human history that we know has an absolutely fixed supply and no one can change.
Okay, so I'm going to play old guy again, Robert. Again, I'm in Park City a couple of days ago, and these guys are pitching me on why I should I should have kept it because I knew I was going to interview you. And I should have got the name of their coin they were pitching me. It says better than Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So being an old guy, I had no retort. I couldn't come back at them because I don't really know. So why couldn't somebody just create their own coins? I mean, aren't they going to?
And they do. There's thousands of them out there. Because if you're trying to compete with Bitcoin directly as money, and it has perfected those 5 properties of money, there's essentially no design space left to introduce a feature that could disrupt Bitcoin. And if there was, so first of all...
Wow. You're saying it, old Satoshi, or whoever he was, locked it up tight?
Well, once you digitize money, money's an informational instrument. It gains all of these advantages, and the services it offers become, as good as we can create with current.
Are you saying it automatically gets stronger?
Well, here's the thing. Assuming even if these guys are the next Einstein and they've figured out something else that money needs that none of us knew it needed, should they go into the market, they sell this coin, it starts to have some success, Bitcoin is still adaptive. It's open source technology. So if there's a feature they've developed that makes money better, which we don't know of one, again, Bitcoin can absorb that feature set. It's open source technology. It resists harmful changes, but it can absorb useful changes, let's say. So this further insulates it.
So it's adaptable, it's flexible, it'll change.
It's a living money, right? Bitcoin too, the difficulty adjustment itself, the harder we try to mine Bitcoin, it actually adapts, it responds to human action and becomes more difficult to produce over time. That is the game. It's the first money that's responsive to human action.
Okay, being an old guy again, all right? So way back when the .com era came up, there was pets.com and there was Amazon. And again, an old guy like me didn't know the difference between pets.com and Amazon. So I invested in neither of them. So are you saying that Amazon just got more adaptive and stronger and blew pets.com out of the water?
This is actually leads to another good point, is that network effects themselves. So a network effect, first of all, is a network becomes exponentially more valuable each new network participant that joins. So one guy joins, but it becomes 1 to the power of whatever more valuable. So it's becoming exponentially more valuable per new participant. Network effects can have multiple sides too. So when we saw Facebook disrupt MySpace, they did that by introducing a superior value prop to just the user. Facebook and MySpace is a one-sided network effect. If you look at something like Craigslist, this is a two-sided market. They have buyers and sellers in the marketplace. So they are more protected from disruption because to disrupt Craigslist, you need to introduce a better value prop for buyers and sellers simultaneously. Otherwise, nobody moves, right? And you can see this in Craigslist. It doesn't have a lot of innovation, but because of its early lead, it's still a fairly well-established network. If you look at Bitcoin through that lens, Bitcoin has a four-sided network effect. We have buyers in Bitcoin, we have sellers of Bitcoin, we have the miners, and then we have all the entrepreneurs building on top of and around it. So if you're going to try and disrupt this network, you have to introduce a superior value proposition that Bitcoin can somehow not absorb. Again, it's open source software, it can absorb features that are useful. And you have to convince this entire global network that's four-sided to move simultaneously. And the whole thing is centered on $1 trillion asset now. Typically when these networks get above 100 billion, they become dominant. So Amazon, two-sided market, once it got above 100 billion in market cap, it became dominant. We're well past that with Bitcoin, and I don't think there's any disrupting it at this point.
Well, being an old guy, I just look at Amazon. Could they have absorbed Pets.com? Yeah, they could sell pet. They could sell anything they wanted to sell.
Yeah, they do now.
Is that what you're saying Bitcoin is? No matter what somebody throws at it, it'll come up. If it's better, it'll adapt it anyway.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. But you can't change the rules. You can only, there's an asymmetry in the governance mechanics that it can only absorb useful features, but it resists harmful changes. No one can go make more than 21 million Bitcoin. Right? You can't make that change, but you can make some positive change.
So my final question is this, being an old guy, I barely use my cell phone. I bought some Ethereum. What do you think about Ethereum?
Ethereum is actually what drew me into crypto assets originally. I was interested in the concept of smart contracts, but the way I've come to see the space is that there will be full consolidation at the base layer. I think everything will consolidate onto Bitcoin, and that all the experimentation and variation will be done at higher layers on top of Bitcoin. Whereas Ethereum is trying to be its own separate base layer. And there's also a lot of questionable action from their development team. They've changed their goals a lot and shifted the goalposts. There was a big pre-mine on it. So there's a lot of unfairness in Ethereum, and I don't expect that track record to improve anytime soon. So I typically encourage people new to the space to focus their attention and energies on Bitcoin. I think you'll get the most bang for your buck in terms of investing your time learning. And it's, in my opinion, it's going to capture the vast majority of the value in this wave of innovation. And And just to finish out what we were saying earlier, like we get into the early 2030s, I don't see the US dollar surviving beyond 2035.
Wow.
But when it starts accelerating at 145% per year, the US M2 money supply, that's when I think hyper Bitcoinization, which is a term many people in Bitcoin use to refer to Bitcoin absorbing all the global monetary premium. I think that's going to start to happen. And post hyper Bitcoinization, when Bitcoin becomes global based money, it will be valued at above $5 million per coin in 2021 dollars. So it's present day purchasing power. But after the dollar hyperinflates, there comes a point where the dollar value of Bitcoin no longer makes any sense. No one will even talk about the dollar value of Bitcoin. They'll just actually talk in sats, which
that's like Philip Haslam talking about the seven falls.
Yeah.
You're at the bottom of the falls. Nobody cares.
That's right.
That's what happens to the Zimbabwe dollar. Nobody cares about it.
That's right. It's like in Venezuela today, there's cash clogging the gutters and the streets. It's meaningless, you know.
So this is going to be the biggest disruptor in world history so far.
I think we're going into the most transformative decade, certainly in monetary history, possibly in world history.
Definitely.
I think we're transitioning from the industrial age into the digital age.
Definitely.
I believe that COVID, there was already a lot of groundwork laid for that, for the first 25 years of the internet, but I think COVID was a massive accelerant to the global adoption of digital technologies. And I think Bitcoin is the tip of the spear in this entire movement. It is the force separating money from state for the first time in history. And, stands to be the most valuable asset you could ever own.
So, but while we end up, I'd like to have you give you a little plug for I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge and insights. Again, we don't make recommendations. We're not saying buy Bitcoin or gold, silver, or Ethereum. But the purpose of the Rich Dad Company is to keep people's minds open. You know, just like when I was standing on the street corners of Park City, these guys are pitching me a new new crypto. I have to stay with an open mind, but I had the benefit of coming back down to Phoenix to talk to Robert Breedlove. So that's all we do. We keep an open mind. We listen to what people have to say. So Robert, how do people stay in touch with you? How do they get more information from your work?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. My last name is Breedlove, BREEDLOVE. My Twitter handle is Breedlove22. I've got my DMs are open. I've got links to my website, my writing. And then most recently, we've launched the What is Money show, kind of taking after your footsteps, doing a little podcast YouTube channel.
Good.
I named it the What is Money show because I think that is the important question people need to ask themselves to get to the bottom of this rabbit hole. Sounds simple, but if you just keep asking yourself this question, I think it will uncover more and more truth.
Well, Robert, it's Gresham's Law.
It's Gresham's Law.
Bad money chases out good money.
That's right. And we're having a flood of bad money worldwide.
Yes.
So you need to be in gold. You need to be in Bitcoin. And the only investment advice I do give is to just study this, study that question, study gold, study Bitcoin, and decide for yourself. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm just here to warn you that we are going into completely uncharted territory.
Correct.
Fiat currency inflation perspective, and inflation rips societies apart. Like I said, at the end of the inflation in France, they publicly broke and burned the printing press. There was recently I think a central bank was burned in Lebanon. I would expect to see more central banks burned in this decade.
I agree with you.
And more government intervention. They're going to do, because inflation creates all these shortages and problems in the socioeconomic sphere, and governments keep trying to step in to create other laws, trying to play whack-a-mole to solve this, that, and the other, and it just makes things worse. So I think this decade is going to be very choppy. So I just, really encourage people to ask themselves that question and study for themselves.
Well, historically, what happens when you print money, the poor get poorer.
That's right.
And then you have hyperinflation, it gets worse. Then you have revolution. Yeah. And that's my concern. That's why I started the Rich Dad Company. We have to have financial education. So I really thank you for being a major contributor to our work. in our information. And please, everybody, check out Robert Breedlove. Thank you very much, Robert.
Thank you, Robert. Really appreciate it.
And we'll be right back for the final.
So, yun. First time sa channel na to na umabot ng halos 3 hours at yan yung excuse mga agila. At yan yung mga agila, yung mga information na open na sa atin lahat na kung ano yung nangyayari na ginagawa ng tawag nito, yung nasa power. At yun nga sabi ni Robert Breedlove na ask yourself na what kung ano yung totoo at na maging open yung mind natin sa mga information na nangyayari sa paligid. At diyan natin maano mga agila na yung video pala na to mga agila na ni Robert Kiyosaki at ni Robert Breedlove is back 3 years ago. At ano yan siya mga agila, kung sa ano pa, kinumbine ko yung pag-discovery ni Terrence Howard at pag-open niya sa Flower of Life at kung ano yung feedback ng society at kay Julian Assange na kung sa ano pa, lahat tayo, this is our own hero's journey na maging mapamatyag at open tayo sa mga nangyayari sa paligid na maging kung ano tayo na sila mga agila na yung na-compile ko na like Terrence Howard, Julian Assange, Robert Breedlove, they're here to guide us na to see what is the truth na nangyayari sa paligid. At yun nga mga agila, marami tayong matutunan sa mga nangyayari sa paligid if our mind is open. At instead na tawag nito, yung ano tayo sa traditional na way. What if we tawag nito, we explore sa unknown na makita natin yung the whole scenario na kung ano yung mga nakikita natin sa kanila na if we learn from them, ang napakaganda is we evolve as a civilization na ma-realize natin na we are all powerful if we unite. At yung nagko-control sa lahat is mawala na ng power. At yan yung mga agila na sa Flower of Life, yung integration ng consciousness is kung makita natin is we can travel beyond the atmosphere of Earth. At yan yung mga agila na lahat, it's all their mission is to teach us to learn how can we improve ourselves. At I'm thankful na nakita ko sila mga agila at in a divine timing yung mga video na pinakita ko dito sa inyo is makita natin na everything is mag-ano pa rin sa mga sarili natin. At yun lang mga Agila. Maraming salamat. Giving you peace, love, and